In a shocking revelation straight out of a Netflix documentary, Usher has uncovered dark secrets connecting Diddy Combs and Justin Bieber. The explosive details are raising eyebrows and shaking the entertainment world as long-hidden truths about their relationships and past actions come to light.
I don't know, maybe in another 10 years we can talk about it and I really understand what I was doing. I'm just living in it. I'm literally, kind of being as open as I possibly can to new ideas and how things are done versus how things were done. And I'm trying not to be a person who's so conditioned to my past that I'm not considerate of how things have to be done and are inevitably being done. Mystique is something that is good and bad. Because what I do struggle with now is the fact that I don't feel comfortable doing these kinds of interviews and talking because I don't really know the nature of where it's going to go. But I fuck with you. So I was like, I'm going to come sit down with you and we're going to have a real conversation. And I'm also, too, going to hopefully, be comfortable enough to be able to be vulnerable and talk about life. And, that's what you see. And then that's who I am. And there's, some judgment that comes with that on the other side. But I don't really get concerned about that. I really am. I'm living my life and I'm trying to be a great artist, but greater than that, a good person and a human, right? I'm going to go through flaws, go through ups and downs. And my entire career has, kind of shown you that. Whether I was talking about it in music or just living through things, I've had some really, really tough times and I've not had anybody to talk to about it. I've not had the opportunity to be able to kind of open up. That's why I really was so excited about this Audibles, because it gave me the opportunity to be able to kind of peel the veil back and allow you to look at where I was.
Tonight, we strip away the glittering facade of an industry built on mentorship and betrayal, uncovering a dark story that even Justin Bieber's mother, Patty Millett, may have sensed from the start. How did a once celebrated mentor-mentee relationship devolve into abuse, exploitation, and control? Join us as we reveal shocking details, piece together a timeline of infamous encounters, and ask tough questions about power, responsibility, and the true cost of fame. Stay tuned.
Reportedly considered dropping Usher from his label, but when Usher begged him to stay on, Reed sent him to live with Sean Combs in New York for a year to train. And at the time, Combs, who was then known as Puff Daddy, we believe was in his 20s, there were these apparent training sessions. And these training sessions were known as Puffy Flavor Camp. Now, through the years, Usher has spoken about this time in his life with Combs. For example, in 2004, Usher told Rolling Stone that Combs introduced him to essentially sex. He said, quote, "Sex is so hot in the industry, man. There was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen." On the Howard Stern show in 2016, Usher talked about his time with Combs too, saying there was definitely a lot of wild partying, but he doesn't think he was really able to understand what all was going on. And when Howard Stern asked him, would you send your own kids to something like Puffy Flavor Camp, this is what he had to say.
What a life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
See?
Usher also spoke with People magazine back in February, saying some of the most valuable lessons I could ever learn as an entrepreneur were picked up when I spent that time in New York with him. This unwavering desire to create and make certain that your creative ideas are executed.
Now, Justin, like I just said, is in the headlines a bit. There's some people who are saying he's really having a tough time these days. He's having maybe even a breakdown. They see some different behavior from him. What do you say?
It's crazy the timing of all this because, we've had these shows booked, for a couple of weeks for me to come on here and talk about Crescendo.
Yeah.
And, we couldn't have predicted all this stuff that just happened in the media. So, I really don't know what to say.
Are you worried about him at all?
I think moms always worry about their children.
Any extra worry now that he's 19 and people are, he's kind of out of the nest a little bit? Any extra worry?
Letting go, it's difficult. So I think that there's always an element of extra worry from parents that when they have to sort of let go a little bit.
I mean, because the thing I always wonder about is like, when you're 19, does your mom supposed to still dictate your friends? Like, do you worry about who he hangs with? Do you like sort of say to him like, I don't want you hanging with this person or that person?
You
don't have to tell me who. I don't need to know who. I'm not going to pry too much. But Unless you really want to tell me. But
yeah. No, I mean, I try. Of course I have talks with him. Of course I have conversations with him about all that kind of stuff. But, you know, as his mom, yeah, the rules have changed now that he's...
You're a little more hands-off?
19. Well, I wouldn't say that. I think it's just a different...
Diddy, a former titan of the music industry, created an empire that promised fame and prosperity but hid a sinister underbelly of abuse allegations that have raged for years, ranging from forced prostitution to rape and sex trafficking claims to recent revelations. Make us go back to his infamous past. Insiders tell us of a time when Bieber was just 15 years old and spent 48 crazy hours in Diddy's mansion. This iconic time was once hailed as a rite of passage, but it is now surrounded by allegations of predatory conduct and exploitation that no youngster should have to go through.
Quickly approaching Combs' May 5th trial date, believe it or not. Unbelievable. I didn't think that was going to happen. And remember, this is a trial where he will face charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. That's an important charge we'll talk about in a minute. But in anticipation of that hearing Friday, here are some things that you should know, maybe what we can expect. We don't know for sure, but this is possible what is going to be addressed on Friday. Now, first up, we believe that Sean Combs is going to be officially arraigned on the second superseding indictment at this conference. Now, most likely he will be advised of his rights, the charges, most likely will enter a plea, and what is the most significant difference in this new indictment that was filed against him last week on March 6th is really one paragraph. I'm actually going to read you right now part of the government's letter to the court that was filed in conjunction with this superseding indictment, and it reads as follows. The S2 indictment contains no new charged offenses, but includes additional allegations related to the racketeering conspiracy charged in count 1. Specifically, the S2 indictment contains additional allegations as to the means and methods of the racketeering enterprise related to forced labor.
In the book, Porter allegedly recounts discovering and making copies of the sex tapes that Diddy made of himself having sex with young boys that he was managing, including an alleged tape involving an 18-year-old pop star who went on to become a household name. Porter alleges that when she discovered those videotapes of Sean and his sexual encounters in the bedroom in this vault, she made copies of them as protection for herself. Realized that this is a very dangerous situation. I'm going to make copies for protection for myself, and included it as a part of her plan to leave him. But the memoir says that when she watched back the tapes, she was so shocked because there were things, quote, some of the tapes had things I would have never expected. The gay parties are one thing, but the young boys, like the 2 hip-hop stars formerly managed by Diddy and the then 18-year-old pop star, I would have never known. The book publisher is claiming that it was the friends that gave him this thumbnail, the friends that provided this memoir. The friends also provided copies of these alleged sex tapes so that he knew that it was legitimate. And the final entry of the memoir from Kim Porter, before she mysteriously got pneumonia and didn't survive it as a 47-year-old, is her dramatically telling her friends, quote, he got me, and then calling 911.
Within this labyrinth of power and influence, Usher emerged not only as a mentor but also as a witness. Having briefly grown up in Diddy's world, Usher gained a unique perspective on the industry's darker side. He saw firsthand how the glamorous exterior of the music business could conceal shocking abuses. Former associate Freddie P has been particularly outspoken, claiming that the environment Bieber encountered was far from the nurturing guidance he was promised. According to Freddie, the young artist was thrust into a world where inappropriate behavior was normalized, making him vulnerable to manipulation and control. This shocking reality starkly contrasts the image of mentorship that was initially presented.
Heard it last night, and it was something about, he said he was standing at a table. They say the shirt that he wore to the VMA say something about God is great. But in the video, they got pictures of him standing in the background while a woman is being sexually pleased, but she under the influence, and they say it's white substance on her nose. You can clearly see that. And they saying in another video they have him and an A-list, a young male, having sex, And it was an alleged allegations that it was being a tape was being shopped around with him and a young male. I'm not accusing nobody, but if you look at the way Justin Bieber look at Puffy, he hates that nigga. He hates that nigga. That man's face ain't just dropped soon as he wanted to go get a wife. That man's whole fucking face, that's some medical. That man young and healthy, man. But he know, he terrified. You remember when I said a lot of people happy you locked up right now, Puff? He's one of them. That's why I'm speaking. He's one of them. One of the people that you terrified who couldn't get from under your claw. That's why Puffy trying to help me get back out here. He know. These bitches want to see me fall. They want to see this. They been waiting on this. He know how many people been waiting on this. His kids know. They feeling it. Nobody calling. Nobody trying to. You know what I'm saying? They were all the people that was trying to be my friends. So infatuated with a child that wasn't yours. Were you grooming that little boy? I don't even want to start those conversations because that's not your child. You know what I'm saying? And for you to keep him that close, it's like you kept him that close because he might got your secrets because he's not your child. So if he's not your child and you that type of person with that type of character, you don't mind actually doing it to him when he finally reaches a certain age because he's not yours. And you know in your mind he's not yours. And now you keep him real close to you. You make sure he don't go to his daddy. Why? You make sure he's separated with him and you provide him with everything he wants. Why? You got one of them little Michael Jackson secrets. He got one of them secrets that he can't tell nobody because his legacy, I mean, his manhood gonna be, and not only that, his brother no gonna look at him crazy. Only Puffy know, only God and Puffy.
Puffy, right?
I don't know. All I'm gonna say is, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be sure, son.
All I'm gonna say is, who's infatuated with another man's son now, like that? Like you, that seemed like grooming to me. I got, oh, that's his daughter's brothers. Get the fuck out of here, huh? Plenty of daughters got brothers. Go show one man that do.
The unfolding drama gains even more weight with explosive claims from figures like Suge Knight, whose own tumultuous history in the industry lends credibility to his allegations. Knight asserts that Diddy's actions were not isolated, but part of a systematic effort to dominate and exploit emerging talent. Whispers also link industry executives like Clive Davis, Russell Simmons, and Andrew Harrell to this dark network, expanding the scope of the scandal. While no formal charges have been filed against these executives, their involvement adds a disturbing layer of context to an already controversial narrative, further deepening the shadows surrounding the music industry's inner workings.
One person didn't know what the saddest thing in the world is what they did to Justin Bieber.
What was that?
That's sad.
What'd they do to him? Because there's a lot of speculation out there, but nobody. I mean, I've heard things, but what did they really do to him?
They had sex with him
when he was a kid.
I hate to say that. I hate to say that because I really like Justin Bieber. I feel bad for Justin Bieber, and this wouldn't have happened if Justin Bieber came from a wealthy family. Justin Bieber pretty much came from a poor family, but the young man was so talented, and he could have been bigger than Michael Jackson. But the pressure of the drugs and the stuff he allowed these grown men to do to this little boy is unhealthy and it's fucked up. No grown men supposed to be getting high and doing drugs and drinking with a kid.
Hey, Suge, you know, yeah, Justin Bieber has been getting this out in different ways. You know, you could see it in his music and just what he's been trying to say without saying it. So, I mean, I think everybody knows what you just stated to be true.
I mean, you had grown men who take Justin Bieber. A grown man take Justin Bieber when he was young to a vacation, a romantic vacation, showing pictures on the Instagram with no women, nobody else, but a grown, successful man and this little kid. Usher spent the night and him and Puffy be in the same bed to do an album. They never did one song they put out at that time. On top of that, when I met Usher, I came on one time. I'm speaking to the guy because he got good songs. That's out of respect. Right, young black man. This dude rolled his eyes at me. And so there was somebody came over and said, Suge, you know, Don't have one of your guys do nothing to him. He a good young man, but him and Puffy got a thing. He a thing. He said, he gave me a look like, you know. And I thought about it. The way he rolled his eyes at me, it wasn't like somebody homie rolled it. It was like I beat up somebody man. Like I beat his, you know, he the bitch. Like somebody to roll their eyes, like you beat my boyfriend up. I ain't speaking to you.
Really?
One of those, right? Yeah, for sure. And the crazy thing about it is like Leslie, his mother, and everybody else said the same thing. Well, it was wrong, but if we go and get Puffy in trouble behind that, Usher wouldn't be Usher. He'd be known as the guy who got molested by Puffy, and they didn't want that.
For Justin Bieber, whose rise to global superstardom was fueled by early connections with Diddy and Usher, these revelations strike painfully close to home. What was once seen as a golden opportunity now appears tainted by a legacy of abuse. As Diddy's legal battles intensify and the industry scrambles to respond, Bieber has been quietly urged to distance himself from the scandal. His silence speaks volumes, hinting at inner turmoil and a struggle to reconcile the allure of fame with the harsh realities of exploitation that have come to light, leaving him caught in a complex web.
Bieber and Sean Diddy Combs have a lot of history in the industry together. The pop star has no interest in revisiting it in the wake of the disturbing allegations against his former mentor and friend. According to a source, Bieber wants nothing to do with the disgraced rapper and is looking out for his own well-being amid the fallout from the federal sex crimes charges against Diddy. Bieber wants to protect himself, the insider said, claiming that the singer has been told that it's in his best interest to be removed from the scandal. The source remarked, Justin has been advised to stay as far away as possible from anything and everything related to Diddy. A separate source touched on the mental toll this situation has taken on Justin, who recently welcomed his first child with wife Hailey Bieber. They said, Justin is in a hard place mentally right now. It's been challenging for the two-time Grammy winner to learn about the accusations against Diddy, whom he's known since he was 15. He has such a history with Diddy, and the allegations against him have been hard to process. One thing keeping the Love Yourself singer calm amid the chaos is being a father to son Jack Blues, who was born in August. The source explained Justin is thrilled to be a dad and that it's something he's wanted for years. In fact, the insider claimed his happiness being a dad has outweighed his anxiety.
Amidst the whirlwind of accusations, Bieber's mother, Patty Millett, plays a crucial role. Her journey, shaped by early hardship and difficult choices, forms a poignant backdrop to the scandal. Driven by hope, Patty signed Bieber's first record deal at a young age, unknowingly opening the door to a world rife with predatory practices. Critics now wonder if, despite her best intentions, she might have sensed that the industry's seductive promises came with a hidden, darker cost, one that would ultimately affect her son.
You're in this industry and you can't believe most of what you read.
Right, a lot of it's made up, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's tough, but you know, he's held his head high and handled some situations really well.
Justin Bieber's mother, Patty Millett, has recently faced criticism for allowing her son to party with Sean Diddy Combs during his teens. A source close to Justin spilled to the Daily Mail, the singer should never have been allowed to party with Diddy or anyone else when he was a teen. The source claimed Justin was thrown to the wolves by his mother and father, Jeremy Bieber, who split with Patty a few months after the singer's birth. However, another insider noted, there is no evidence to suggest Justin's parents knew about Diddy's alleged criminal activity at the time.
Being a teen parent was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. And I remember recently going back to visit the pregnancy home that I lived at the whole time that I was pregnant with my son. And seeing the girls, and they just had so many questions. And one of the questions was, how am I going to do this? What do I have to offer? You know, they didn't have anything. And I remember saying, you have love. You look at all these different countries all over the world where they have nothing, and they are some of the happiest people in the world. You know, you have some families that have everything, and they have some of the most miserable kids in the world because they don't value love as the most important thing. And so I think that's really important, is to really encourage teens to really love their kids and know that that's enough. I also want to encourage teen moms to really utilize the resources available to them. There's so many amazing programs. There's even groups that you can get, support groups that you can join, and things that you can do to really be the best.
As these threads converge, the narrative becomes a multifaceted examination of mentorship gone awry, where loyalty is tainted by exploitation. Usher's revelations have ignited a fire that challenges the myth of success built solely on talent and hard work. Each new detail forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about responsibility, accountability, and the true cost of fame. In recounting these events, we are not just reporting a scandal, but uncovering a hidden chapter of music history. The cost of fame, it seems, is often paid in pain, manipulation, and betrayal, reminding us of the dark truths beneath the glittering surface of stardom.
Your things are your things, my things are mine. I have something I'm passionate about. I need your support. I need your help. I want to get counsel. But those kinds of boundaries established, I think hopefully going to, make this a more sustainable relationship. This is my third one.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make certain that I don't take this ring off.
Yeah, I know that's right. Amen. I love that. And I love that it is a balance in that regard because, hey, sometimes it's difficult when the person doesn't know anything about what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think for me, it was always difficult to figure out, do I want to date somebody that's in the industry and that knows what's going on? Or does that not give me enough of a way to be outside of the industry enough? You know how that is as an
You don't want
entertainer.
that.
It's like you don't want the other one.
You don't want that. You don't want somebody who's oblivious.
Really?
Yeah. You want somebody who does understand who you are and knows the dynamic that comes with it, because there's going to be times where it becomes complicated and you're going to need them to get it and create balance. If they're ration.
Doesn't it feel too Hollywood sometimes?
Hollywood, because I understand who I'm dating and I know what I got myself into before I started. Nah, I think and if you want to live that life, you can, but at some point, she or he will feel like, oh, I'm not included. I don't understand. Oh, you know what? You're right. I don't understand. I don't work in your world.
I heard about some music executive from the industry back in Harlem. I heard it from some music executives back in Harlem. And I'm not going to speak on their name. They doing programs and everything like that, and they may be doing something. They may speak on it themselves. But I heard it from some music executives.
Where did you hear?
Bro, you know how people be talking, and we was around some people, something like that, and then some people might say, "Yo, I don't F with that dude." And at the time, I didn't know who the F Usher was. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those type of situations. And one probably say, "Yo, man, I don't F with them niggas. Man, I'm getting out that industry and everything like that." Puff sent this little kid to the hospital. How he sent him to the hospital? Man, Nick was bleeding from the butt. And that's what was said. But I didn't even have a name for the kid at the time. Then you heard it, and that's...
In the wake of these explosive revelations, the music world stands at a crossroads. Usher's bold expose has shattered long-held myths and forced us to confront the unsettling truths behind Diddy's empire and its impact on stars like Justin Bieber. The evidence, once concealed in whispers and half-truths, now demands accountability from an industry that has been steeped in secrecy for far too long. The time for silence is over, and the hidden realities can no longer be ignored.
Well, they say you evolve or you evaporate. 1. 2, chaos always leads to some perspective. Yeah. Whether you choose to live in that chaos, it's up to you. But it is necessity. It is necessary in order to build. As you said, every lawyer wins a case, but then he's got to go pick up another one. Every person has a grand moment, and then they're going to fall again to get back up. Every team can win a championship. They're going to have to start all over next year. So it's like, that is kind of the practice of what music became to me. So I did use it as an outlet to some extent, but no, I still want more. I want to have more opportunities to be able to share, some perspective.
That's what we need. That's what we need. I'm really glad that you was willing to talk to me too. Like, I really appreciate it.
I guess getting to the other side of successful moments allow me to be able to give some perspective. I've lived in my suffering long enough to be able to write about those songs. Imagine being able to make an album where I can talk to you about the other side. I can talk to you about the journey of, oh, I completely went to the bottom of this thing that you were so caught up in. And it was no longer about a superficial feeling. It was about something that mattered. And then I got myself into a better mental state. And then I moved forward. And here's the things that came to me as opposed to me trying to go after it. To be able to share that would be valuable. Who knows? It could be a book, could be another Audible.
I mentioned that earlier, that he said about Stevie J. The Usher part, that's a touchy situation, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a certain feeling and I felt a certain way when Usher got on Shay Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms, but he got on Shay Shay and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him and everything. You know what I'm saying? About the business, right? I know, and people know, that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you, you gonna give him a pass? Bruh, you know I know.
As we reflect on the tangled web of mentorship and exploitation, the weight of responsibility borne by those who promise to nurture talent is undeniable. Usher's candid revelations, alongside harrowing accounts from insiders and the painful memories of a vulnerable young Bieber, have sparked a conversation that extends beyond mere scandal. It is a call for transparency, justice, and a reimagining of how power is wielded in the pursuit of fame. This reckoning challenges the industry's foundations, demanding a shift toward ethical practices and genuine care for those seeking success.